Excuse me, your curtain. Please allow me to help.
Help? From you?
I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you should know that
That I should know what? That some privileged white guy thinks his opinion matters? Get over your entitlement. I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for you to ride in on your high horse.
I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White.
Right.
You should shut up and do the job.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, really? Are you having trouble paying your bills, Rachel? Did Steven Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for, cry me a river. She's just exactly everything that we can't.
Outspoken actress Rachel Zegler just faced another public blow. And this time, it's courtesy of The Simpsons. In their upcoming episode, the iconic show doesn't hold back, taking direct aim at Rachel and the fallout surrounding her controversial Snow White remake. The parody within the episode features a fictional film titled Snowwoke: The Reimagining. And yes, it's every bit as brutal as it sounds. It's a full-on satire of Disney's failed attempt to modernize a beloved classic. Rachel Zegler, already overwhelmed by negative press, frustrated fans, and a disastrous box office run, is now the punchline of primetime comedy. And this parody only adds fuel to the fire.
It got destroyed at the box office. Here's the box office numbers. The Minecraft movie made $60 million on Saturday. Snow White made $2.
Minecraft, yes, the movie based on digital blocks, just steamrolled over Rachel Zegler's Snow White, leaving Disney completely embarrassed. The studio never imagined that casting Rachel would backfire this hard, turning one of their most legendary fairy tales into a total disaster. Most people didn't even know who she was, until she started making headlines for all the wrong reasons.
And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to.
But the theaters? Practically deserted. People were recording themselves walking into screenings where they were the only ones in the entire room.
I am walking into Snow White, 2 p.m., now seating. Let's see how empty it is. I hope it's off the walk we go. I hope. Sound like I hear a couple of people. One, two. Okay. 2.
Now, The Simpsons have taken aim, mocking her on national television. And this jab, everyone's going to see it. Insiders say Rachel Zegler is fuming behind the scenes. She's definitely not laughing. In fact, she's furious. The animated parody paints her as a clueless, self-centered girl boss, totally disconnected from reality. And honestly, a lot of viewers think it's spot on. To make matters worse, while The Simpsons rip into her on screen, Rachel's reportedly trying to distance herself from the chaos, making a quiet exit from the full-blown Snow White disaster.
What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it.
Hold on.
All right.
This is exactly what critics have been warning about for months. Now, with Rachel Zegler already buried under a mountain of bad press, The Simpsons, one of television's most iconic shows, have joined in to roast her. Let's be honest, this might just be the most humiliating moment of her career so far.
The producers, far left-wing activists in Hollywood, are turning on her, and Disney has canceled all of Rachel Zegler's appearances on their media platforms. Kind of tough.
People are like, oh wow, Snow White flopped. Who is surprised? You cast arguably the least genuine, most out of touch and disliked person in her industry, and her industry is Hollywood. And the bad guy is Gal Gadot.
To really understand how this all unraveled, you have to go back to what initially looked like a real-life fairy tale. Rachel Zegler was being hailed as Hollywood's next rising star. After earning critical praise for her role in West Side Story, she landed the coveted lead in Disney's live-action Snow White. It was supposed to be her big breakthrough, but almost immediately after the announcement, things started to go off the rails. Not because of the film itself, but because of the controversy brewing around it. Instead of building hype, Rachel's interviews quickly took center stage, and not in a good way.
Well, we all basically knew that Snow White was going to be a massive failure at the box office because of Rachel Zegler's controversial statements.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
Instead of celebrating the legacy of the character or sharing her excitement about stepping into such an iconic role, Rachel's comments took a very different turn. Her interviews focused more on criticizing the original Snow White than honoring it. In one clip that quickly went viral, she claimed the prince in the 1937 version was essentially a stalker and called the whole story weird and outdated. The internet didn't hold back, and things blew up fast.
Rachel Zegler just keeps making things worse with the Walt Disney Company. The more that she tries to defend this movie, the more that she tries to spew her agenda onto the general public, it's only making matters worse. Not just for Bob Iger, but for whatever is left of the image of Disney as a whole.
Behind the scenes, you guys know as well as I do that those executives like Spielberg are looking at that saying, Rachel Zegler can F right off.
To a lot of fans, it didn't come off as just an opinion. It felt like she was outright ridiculing the very classic she was hired to bring to life.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Yeah.
Weird.
The outrage only intensified as more clips from her interviews began circulating online. While a handful praised her for being edgy and progressive, the majority saw this version of Snow White as smug, tone-deaf, and totally disconnected from the spirit of the original.
I just want to tell you guys about a incredible movie that just came out, Snow White. Wow. I just got to tell you, best movie I've seen in years, and there have been some really, really good films lately. Madam Web, Rebel Moon Part 1, that movie, that transgender one with the Mexican drug lord. But Snow White blows them all away. Chat, this movie has everything. Horrifying, CGI, little people, check. A feminist princess who don't need no man, double check. Diddy dance party at the end, double Diddy check. All this to say, go see Snow White right now. The new one. Not that old stupid one where the princess gets saved by some good, upstanding guy.
The term girl boss Snow White quickly began trending online, but not in a positive way. Every word Rachel Zegler said seemed to be under intense scrutiny. From every quote to every red carpet appearance, fans tore apart every public moment she had. Rather than excitement, audiences felt the enchantment of Snow White slipping away. But things took a turn for the worse when attention shifted to her awkward interactions with co-star Gal Gadot during press events and awards shows. Fans couldn't miss the odd body language between the two, and at the Oscars, it was nearly impossible to overlook.
Did the dwarfs make it or no?
Well, the CGI dwarfs did. Of course, that goes back to the original controversy where Peter Dinklage, a very talented little person actor, said, why are we doing that? We've hired a Latina actress to be Snow White. That's progressive. But you're going to hire little people to play the dwarfs? That just seems like a step backwards. And then, of course, Disney instantly buckled and said, okay, we're going to add magical creatures.
Then they got even crazier and they decided that the dwarves in Snow White weren't woke enough, okay?
You're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's for dwarfs. You know?
When they presented together on stage, fans couldn't help but notice the lack of chemistry and the minimal interaction between them. Rumors started circulating that Gal Gadot had purposely distanced herself from the growing controversy, and whispers suggested that behind the scenes, things weren't exactly friendly. Meanwhile, Disney stayed eerily silent, offering no significant changes, no shift in messaging, just sticking to business as usual. But the reality was, the movie itself wasn't resonating with audiences.
They've been in a full meltdown about this girl for a couple of years now, and how they had her tweet out like a little, yay, Snow White, can't wait, so excited, I love to play her. And she did it and got like millions of views, and they were like, good job, Rachel. And then she, like minutes later, followed it up with, and never forget, free Palestine.
And isn't her co-star Jewish?
Yes, Gal Gadot, whatever.
I mean, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
They tried, they flew an executive, one of the producers, out to go visit personally with Rachel Zegler to say, could you please take that down? Because We understand you can have your political views, but those aren't really helpful while you're trying to build an audience for a movie. Maybe you could save them for like your diary and your friends, but like maybe not, maybe just take the tweet down. And she wouldn't.
But my name is Gal, and I'm Jewish. And we have had enough of Jew hatred.
Please welcome Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot.
Visual effects push the boundaries of what we see on screen.
Their work makes the impossible seem possible.
With breathtaking ambition, they create magic that wraps its arms around our wildest imaginations.
Here are the nominees for Best Visual Effects.
Despite Disney's massive marketing push, Snow White hit theaters with a thud. Ticket sales were underwhelming, and even the power of its name couldn't save it. The film quickly turned into one of the studio's most controversial remakes.
Zegler would be a miscast in that sense. Instead, she gets her name from surviving a snowstorm.
That audiences walk away from this film with an understanding of the true meaning of fairness, of what it means to be fair in this world. There is a message that's been carried on for almost 90 years now from the original animated classic. That is, fairness is what is within. Fairness is to do with your heart, the way you treat the people around you, and it has nothing to do with what you look like, and that's the misunderstanding between Snow White and the Evil Queen. I think it's such an important message, and the way that Disney has elevated it and brought it to this new audience is very special.
That flop is now cemented in pop culture, thanks to a savage parody on The Simpsons. The classic Springfield wit cut right to the heart of it. What should have been Rachel Zegler's defining moment instead became a cautionary tale of how a bold reimagining can quickly spiral into overkill. Whether you loved or loathed her modern take, the controversy surrounding the film ensured that her version of Snow White will be remembered for all the wrong reasons.
Alex, what has been the reaction to Disney's latest expensive own goal?
Well, the reaction has been absolutely horrible. It is the worst box office from a Disney live action remake that they've ever done.
I mean, they're projected to lose between $200 and $400 million on this.
Once the hype faded, the numbers spoke for themselves. The box office performance was dismal, and the IMDb score plummeted to a shocking 1.6, marking one of Disney's all-time lowest ratings. Audiences didn't just ignore the film, they reveled in its failure, flooding social media with memes and Reddit threads mocking the marketing disaster. But then, things took an even stranger turn. A fake OnlyFans account featuring an AI-generated image of Rachel went viral within hours. Despite being entirely fabricated, thousands of people fell for it. It was a clear sign of how far her public image had fallen, to the point where even the most absurd rumors seemed believable.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion, but the reality is she's just not stable.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
Hollywood quickly took notice as casting calls that once spotlighted her name began to fade away. Projects that were said to feature her either stalled or were recast entirely. Within a year, she went from being Disney's next big star to a potential liability. Her very public breakup with actor Josh Andreas Rivera only added fuel to the fire, portraying her as a young star crumbling under pressure. Just when it seemed like the dust had started to settle, The Simpsons hit hard. Their episode, Snow Woke. The reimagining parodied Rachel Z by making her a character who bans princes, lectures villagers, and watches her film flop in a deserted theater before having a meltdown on Krusty the Clown's show. When Springfield turns you into a punchline, you've crossed over from being a celebrity to a spectacle. There's still a chance for a comeback. Hollywood loves a redemption story, but the road ahead is tough. A box office failure, massive public backlash, and complete silence from the studio have shattered Rachel's image. Now, the world is waiting to see whether she can piece it all back together, or if the yellow-skinned satire just put the final nail in her fairy tale.